Hello, welcome to another night shift. My name is Yazil, and today we're going to make our second part for the DB item plugin. And here you see the general structure. So we work today on item add, item read, and item save. And for that we need two functions. And this first function is insert item, and the next function is update item. You could also make a read item later on for yourself. As always, just a demonstration how to do that. And we just go into the plugin, insert item function, and that's quite easy. We have a private void insert item, and as a parameter we want to have an item, and then we just use an, let me scroll a little bit, and try catch for the database, and we're using the darkrift server.database.execute query, and the query we want to use is insert into table item, and what we want to insert is the ID and the item name, and as a value we're using the query parameters ID and the query parameter ID name. And then you just define a new query parameter, which is here the ID, which is the name here, and we use the myitem.id, so we use the information we get from here. And the same is with the item name. We just use the underscore myitem.title, which is always also the information we just get from here. As always, this is just exemplary. Of course, you have to add the parameters and the execute queries for the rest of the stuff, like fire or whatever you have there or want to have in your item. Oh, I changed that. Of course, we work with DB item, not with item. So for the rest of the values you have here, you just have to add that there. So, and then of course we are catching the database exception, and we give it out if we have debug on, and we just tell the user that we unsuccessful saved the item. So after that we just going for the error message and print that down into the interface. And that's just basically for the insert item. And the update item is the same. We just going and try and catch the database execute query. So we're using darkrift.database.execute query, and this time we don't use the update, we use the insert into the table item and of course the ID and the item name here, of course. And as a value, we insert the parameter name ID and the parameter name ID name, item name. And this is the same again. We use the values out of the MyItem, which we got in calling the function, and we just insert that. It's here the same again. We're using the database exception, and we print that out if we in debug mode. So that's basically all for these two functions. If you want to have and read, you have then to do something like database.execute, and the query would be something like select whatever from. We do that in later on up there. So here is the function on server message. So if we got a message in there, and it is the data.tag is our item tag, and the data subject is our item add, we want to call this function, and I open that region, and here we just see if we are in debug mode. We want to give out a message which tells us we are in here in this loop, and then we generate ourselves a new item. So it's item underscore my item. It's a new item, just simple, and we using the database reader, And so we use or we read the data.data out of our network message, and we just say that the underscore myitem.id is what we read on our Darkriff reader, and the title is the same as what we read on our reader also. So first time it's int, and the second time it's in string. Then we're gonna try and catch again. So we try our database row, and the execute is we select star from table item, where the ID is equal to the query parameter name ID, and we just limit that to one line. So here the same again, we use the query parameter name, and we set that to our myitem.id. And if the row is 0, so we in our whole database there is no row which has the ID, we just insert item, which is the function we made down here. Item, insert item. So, and then as always we catch the database exception, and we give something out if we are in debug mode. And that's all for the try and catch. And after that the using is end, so everything is destroyed we have in here. So that's quite easy. Oops, not that. We just close that, the item add. And the item save is similar to that. We also going for if debug, we give out a message, we generate our own item, and we use the Darkriff reader. In the Darkriff reader we get what we read on our data into our item. So in this case, in the beginning it's ID and title, and then we're gonna try and catch again. So we're gonna try if the database new database row is equal to data-rift server.database.execute query, and here the execute, let me go a little bit there. It's in select star from TB item, where ID is equal to the ID query parameter name ID, and it's limit to 1 also. And here we going and say the new query parameter is ID, and it's underscore my ID, myitem.id. So you see it's always similar or next to similar what we're going to do. And now we just check if the row dot length is equal to 1. Then we're gonna have to use update item, else that means we have in 0 or something else there. So we could go and specify that so we don't get an error. So we say else if, and we say rows dot length is equal to 0. So we are make sure that we just go into that if the length is 0. It works with an else also, but that's just for security. And then we say insert item dot my underscore my item. And after that we just catch any exception we just may get here. So if we are in debug, we are going to have the interface.log and just give out a message with our debug message. So that's also not very hard. If you followed my tutorial, you should be able to do that nearly on your own, or not nearly, I'm sure you could do that on your own. And for the last part of this part of the video, we have the read item, which is again always the same. We just debug something out if we are in here, and then we make our own item, and we using the Darkriff reader. And in this case, we just give these plug in just the item ID, and then we're going to try and catch again. We're going to read out of our database with a new database row, and it's equal to darkrift server.database.execute query, and the query itself is select star from TV item where ID is equal to the parameter name ID, and we just want to have one line, so it's limit 1. And the new query parameter, of course, is again the name ID we defined here. Here. And we take that out of underscore myitem.id. And then if the row .length is equal to 1, we go in here and we using the darkrift writer, which we named writer, and is equal to a new darkrift writer, and we write the ID, and we are writing the row 0 with the name item name. So here we get a dictionary back which says we got an ID and a value, and we got in the dictionary a name item name, which is of course the database or the name we defined in the database, and we just want the value out of that. And then we just say con.reply, send reply, and we send the item tag, the item read, and the writer we defined here. And then we catch everything. If we may get an error, we give out a debug, just we did before. So that's not too hard. A couple things, if something not works, you have to, not here, we have to make sure here, and read vars no install, sorry, in install. Remember what you get back is this name you define here. And of course, if you create the table, you make sure in the other cases we had the ID as an auto increment. In this case, it's not auto increment because we generate the IDs in Unity. So make just sure it's int, not null, and it's a primary key. So that's the errors you could go in through. It's somewhere here, and make sure that works. So that's all for this part. It's a nice, quick and easy video, and in the next part we sending finally stuff into these plugin. So just build that, build solution, and copy the DLL into your server, just we did before with the other things. So if you like that, of course, leave a like. If you have questions, just leave a remark under the video. And if you liked it even more, of course, I would be more than happy if you subscribe to my channel. So I would guess this is for this video. So happy night shift, your Yazir.